sometimes I'd be thinking, okay, how's Lowell going to think, or Nathan, when they read this? And so I thought, oh no, I'm oversimplifying things. Then I'm thinking, okay, what's Warren Buffett going to think when he reads this? And he's really my target audience, okay? Somebody who's never read books about climate, but quite intelligent and a fair bit of curiosity about, these various improvements, how far do they take you, and what is the bad case and the good case, and it's global, and where does it come from? Anyway, it was a fun process. I finished the book in 2019, and it was going to come out last year. But, then as the pandemic hit, our foundation is pretty central. We understand vaccine factories and production better than any single organization, because all these Indian factories basically have been financed into existence by us. We decided to skip that year. And fortunately, COP26 also got delayed. So it actually feels pretty timely in a way, because we have, Biden elected with this as a priority. The European Union has this as a priority. So it feels timely. People are being super nice about the book. Other than the one review, they've all been just talking about electricity. If you get to chapter 3, that just talking about electricity isn't going to solve the problem. And just talking about U.S. electricity really, really, really isn't going to solve the problem. And McKibben is stuck in this time warp where it's just about a few evil utility executives or people who won't admit, that solar's cheap, and, he's just spreading the good news. Now we have this 2035 zero emission electric grid goal. Which to say that's high reach is to be kind. We're doing this really amazing open source model. I've always funded it, but it started under Nathan, and now we've moved it over under our breakthrough energy thing. And we've got a really great team. So the idea is to have everybody, whether it's FERC or ERCOT or the utilities, take our model and put in how much nuclear, what kind of storage, what kind of transmission, and show how many Americans freeze to death when you get a cold front in the Midwest. In general, when politicians talk to you about grid reliability, you'd like to say to them, okay, where's the engineer who's got the model behind this statement? These models they use are so terrible, and they're proprietary, and they don't share information. I mean, it's like nobody's serious about this thing. Doing this open source model for North American grid reliability that you can get academics and all the key people involved in. Utility companies are serious companies. They really employ real engineers. None of them have been engaged in this discussion of the 2035 grid. So I want to use the model. I want to be positive. I want to come up with that solution. The world would be super impressed. Now, the US is more blessed than most geographies. We've got a wide country, so you can't get a cold front over the whole country. We've got good solar, and Canada's got some hydro. We can't even build the interconnect between Canada and the US right now, which is really insane, because that's reliability, cost saving, and green. It's got all three benefits, but it gets blocked because, of course, a right-of-way, you need the end condition of everyone along a linear path for it to work. And so you won't find an engineer who can back that goal. Otherwise, it's very well organized.
So, Bill, let's take a step back for people who haven't read the book. Explain to them what the central argument is you're making here briefly.
Well, if you don't believe in climate change, this book is not the one that's going to convince you. It is a book for somebody who thinks it's a fairly important problem and wants to get a sense of, okay, where are these sources of emissions, and how hard is it to get rid of these emissions? And remind people that we need to do adaptation, although that's only one chapter, but the diversity of the sources of emissions and the potential for innovation to bring the total green premium down. That's what this book is about. To me, the paradigmatic phone call is in 2050, when you call India and you say, hey, are you willing to use the green stuff? And they say, hey, are you willing to send us trillions of dollars? We're building basic shelter here. It turns out it's warmer. We need air conditioning. We need lights at night. Our seeds are not growing as well as they used to. And could you do it on a brute force basis? And the answer is no way, unless you get about a 95% reduction, which would be about 250 billion a year. The whole climate endeavor has not focused on R&D, and it's used short-term metrics. Well, if you use short-term metrics of reduction, of course you go after the easy stuff. And passenger cars and some portion of electricity, in fact, a lot, modular reliability, which we were just discussing, those are the lowest green premiums. And so, of course, you're going after the low green premiums. And when those countries go into the room, say, hey, I'm Norway, I'll do 32%. Hey, France, why don't you do 33%? Nobody's talking about making steel some different way. The way we make steel is a worldwide, we make it the same way everywhere in the world.
Right.
Nobody's going to do high green premium stuff. Even the Norwegian carbon tax doesn't reach that. And the carbon tax people, for high green premium things, all the carbon taxes shift you to stay away from the high green premium things. It doesn't say work on the high green premium things. And zero is special. And people should know that zero is special. Zero is not about reducing the number of burgers people eat or traveling, putting in mass transit for 20% less passenger miles. And this is global. And so the US's responsibility to the world is not to brute force get rid of its 15%. That's of no value at all if we brute force our 15%. The only value is to take our innovation power, which is the majority of the world, and bring green premiums down by 95%. That's what the US has to do. All the other stuff is just so much confusion.
Just to be clear, you're using this term green premiums a lot, which I think maybe a lot of people don't understand what that means, but that's the price differential between clean energy in systems and dirty energy in systems, right? I mean,
exactly. So for every emitting activity, you look at the current cost of the activity, and then you look at what it would cost to complete the activity with net zero emissions. And so I use a $100 per ton direct air capture price. So, for the 51 billion tons of yearly emissions, that's 5 trillion a year at $100 a ton of green premium. And, fortunately, in the cases like electric cars, the scale up of the market and the incentives, as you improve the cost of the batteries and the range, and you get more charging points and you get quick charging. A gasoline car will not, in the next 10 to 15 years, even without subsidies, be in any sense inferior to a gasoline car. And so that's a case where you get the green premium to zero.